Hey guys, how is it going? This is a quick introduction to week one, and hopefully you've watched the intro video already. And so this video is getting us to the first week where we are going to do some introductory type things to the class itself, introduce ourselves to each other, and that will be good. So the Doctrine of Assurance is what we're going to be looking at this semester, and let's start with the definition. That always seems like a good place to start. The Doctrine of Assurance is the doctrine that teaches the possibility of Christians knowing that they truly are the children of God. So it is that thing inside of us that makes us know certain things. Now, in philosophy and even in some forms of theology, they talk about different levels of knowing and what knowing means. And this is the fancy word for this is epistemology. If you're looking at a philosophy category, something like that. Epistemology simply is how do you know that you know? For example, maybe you know that I think that's a Ferrari or something. I actually have a red car. It's not quite like that. It's a Kia Rio, which means it's nothing like that at all, basically. Anyway, but how do you know? Let's say you have a red car and it's sitting in your driveway. How do you know it is actually there? I mean, you can go look at it and you could say, oh, okay, yeah, I know where it is. Some people claim that they happen to know that there is a Santa Claus, right? So, I mean, kids are pretty sure that there's a Santa Claus. And then when we get older, sometimes we think there's not a Santa Claus, maybe. But how do you actually know that there is or isn't? And then where this class is going is how do you know that you're going to heaven? Or do you not know you're going to heaven? And how does that all play together? We're going to see that within the Bible, for Christians, there are a couple different types of verses that address this. For example, in 1 John 5:13, it says, I write these things to you who believe in the name of the Son of God, that you may know. And there's this idea of, that, I've got a blue water bottle here. You know that there's a little screwdriver here. Like I'm holding this and I'm pretty sure that that's what this is. It's a little tiny screwdriver. There's yellow and black and it's a little, part that goes in there. So I could feel it. I touch it, I can see it, right? I guess I could taste it if I want to lick it. Maybe I'm not going to do that. But how do you know that this is here? But it seems that this is what this verse is saying. In 1 John 5:13, I write these things to you who believe that you may know that you have eternal life. So that's kind of a cool verse. That gives us some assurance, right? But then there are other verses like Matthew 7:21. This is when Jesus, at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. And this is the passage where he said, people are going to come up and say, hey, I cast out demons in your name. I did miracles in your name. And Jesus go, I never knew you. And so these people seem to think that they had, eternal life, but they didn't. And so really what we're doing with the course with that background is three specific things. I want to point these out. I want to spend a little bit of time looking at these because this is everything we're doing in this course is heading towards these three objectives, and they're all related to each other. Students will comfort and confront, and what we just saw are two different passages. One comforts in 1 John, and then in Matthew 7, there's a confrontation going on there, right? I mean, Jesus wants people to think about their condition and somehow respond. It's not comforting, it's more confronting. And we're going to take that clue and we're going to do the same thing. We will comfort and confront a community through developing a plan for teaching the biblical foundations of the Doctrine of Assurance. And so where this whole class is heading is for you to present some sort of teaching. It could be a group of videos, it could be a sermon series, it could be a Bible study, it could be anything basically that you somehow communicate to people. Maybe it's, you just stand up on the street corner and preach old school, right? But one of the areas that we're doing this is from the biblical foundation, like we just looked at. We looked at 2 verses. And then also, students will comfort and confront a community. This is exactly the same, isn't it? Developing a plan for teaching the historical foundation. So we're going to look at back to the early church, like the Catholics. The big thing between the Catholics and the Reformers during the Reformation really related kind of this doctrine of assurance, because Martin Luther himself was sort of freaked out because he didn't know, right? I mean, he's confessing, he's doing everything he's supposed to, but he never really knew. But then when he discovers the doctrine of justification by faith, all of a sudden he takes a deep breath and goes, oh, okay, this is good. Like, I have faith. Now I know, and I can move ahead with confidence, right? So that's some of the historical stuff we're going to look at. And then, same thing, cover and confront a community through developing systematic and philosophical foundations. And so the idea here is that, yes, here's the Bible verses, here are the way the church has thought of this in the past, but we're going to sort of step back a little bit. And then how do we know these things? Again, like Santa Claus. Some people believe in Santa Claus. Other people don't believe in Santa Claus. Some people believe in, Sasquatch. They believe that there are UFOs out there. They believe in aliens. They believe in all kinds of stuff, right? So what is the link between what you believe and what is actually true? And there's some philosophical type stuff that we'll get into there. Now, background for me, one of the areas, the reason why this whole idea really gets to me is the story of Pilgrim's Progress, which I've read a million times. I really love that book a ton. And one of the things that's really interesting towards the end of that book, Christian, who's the guy kind of with the, I think in this thing, he's in the middle. He's got sort of the armor stuff on. And he and his friend Hopeful, which I think is to the right of him, for the last part of the book, they are kind of walking towards the celestial city. They're walking toward heaven. And there's this guy named Ignorance who is kind of with them. And it's kind of this longer section, and they talk back and forth, and they try and figure out how they know they're going to heaven. And what's super interesting is that in this conversation between Christian and Ignorance is that they both seem to have the same sort of confidence. They're both very sure of where they're going, right? But when they get to the end, Christian goes on to heaven, Ignorance goes to hell, and he gets, sent to hell from the gates of heaven. And the thing that kind of haunts me about this story is that the difference between assurance and delusion, we know when it's all said and done, they end up in different places. But if you were to take sort of a microscope and look at their knowledge, their epistemic state, as they're approaching the celestial city, they both have the same sort of feeling, right? But one of them's wrong and one of them's right. And so the question that we have to ask ourselves is, wow, am I more like Ignorance? I mean, I think I'm going to heaven, like everything's pointing towards that. But people used to believe that, the sun went around the earth, and they were very confident of that, right? But they were wrong. And so this idea of assurance is really important to who we are as believers, because the Bible does say, I want you to know, but I don't want you to be mistaken. And so this is sort of a tricky thing that we have to do. So week 1, here's where we're going. We're jumping in. We're going full force. Right now, you're watching the lecture. Good for you. Good job. I'm going to have a short little quiz after it. There's not going to be a ton of questions that can be too hard, but there'll be a couple of questions just to show that you watched this introduction type thing. So that's the context of where we are. The content of where we're going with this is there's a few things I'm going to have you do. First of all, there is an article about Mother Teresa, and it was really interesting after she passed away a while ago. They discovered that she had a lot of doubts in her life, pretty much for her whole life almost, that God was not close by, that she just didn't have this assurance. And so I want you to read that and then just ask some fundamental or answer some fundamental questions about assurance in relation to Mother Teresa. Then there are a couple of interviews I'm having you do. I want you just to ask friends or family members or anything. It could be man on the street, woman on the street, whatever. Just find at least 2 people that you can just sit down and have an interview with. And at the end of this section of this lesson, I'm going to be putting the videos of 2 of the interviews I did. I did an interview with my son-in-law and then one with an old family friend. I mean, she's not old. She's been a family friend for a long time. We'll put it that way. And so I did those on Zoom and just recorded them and put them up. You don't necessarily have to do them on Zoom, but it might be fun to do that. And I think we would like to see at least maybe a couple highlights of them. But I've got 4 specific questions I posted there for you to ask them. And it's not like they have to be experts. It's not like you even have to have answers. I'm just getting these questions out for you to see and just to get a feeling for how, people would respond to these. Then I'm going to have just a short thing. It's just going to be a short thing that what are you going to do for your big project, your big teaching project? Again, it could be videos, could be sermon series, could be anything like that. And at this point, I don't need any details, don't need any outline, anything like that. Just brainstorm a little bit, and you don't have to stick with this. Like you could say, well, I think I might want to do a Bible study, and I would do it kind of like this. So I'm not looking for super specific details, just to get the ball rolling. Like, what might you do? Okay. And then we have a connect section, and I've got a voice thread up there of just introduce yourself, just say hi to us, and that will be awesome. And then tell us a little bit about the assurance interviews that you did. I don't have that that voice thread up yet, but it will be up soon. And so this would be the same kind of thing. Just riff a little bit. Just tell us a little bit about what you found on your the interviews that you did. I'm super excited about this class and look forward to learning about you, to get to know you better. We'll have some way to do that throughout the next few weeks. And this is going to be cool. I am excited, and I want to learn, and I know you guys want to learn, and let's all learn together. And we will talk to you soon. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, this is a new learning management system, so there's going to be some hiccups, going to be some bumps, going to be that kind of thing. But if you're watching this, it probably is, you probably aren't Populi, because that's where I'm going to put this. Let me know if you have questions. It's fairly easy to figure out. You just press the buttons and stuff. So anyway, this video has gone a lot longer than I thought it was going to. Hang in there. Let me know if you have any questions, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.